Hello, my friends. Welcome to another episode of Deep True Crime. I'm Manny Rodriguez. In today's episode, we are covering the newest update, which many are considering a shocking update. After a huge era delayed Richard Allen's arrest for years. So we're going to be diving into that, and we're also going to be diving into a press release that Richard Allen's defense attorneys put out there before the judge's gag order. Let's go ahead and dive into what we know now. In today's episode, we are covering some of the newest updates around the Delphi Snapchat murders. Two young girls going hanging out by themselves, and this deranged lunatic did the unthinkable, allegedly. And so we want to dive into what do we know now. And so we received this shocking update in the murders that could have delayed Richard Allen's arrest for years. And so the suspect in the murders, Richard Allen, we find out there was a clerical error that has now been reported. This so-called error has come to light as the suspect is seeking a change of venue for his trial in the 2017 murders of teens Abby Williams and Libby German. And so now he is wanting a change of venue, but we find that he might have been arrested a long time ago. And so 5 years worth of investigating previously brought forth sketches, audio evidence, and a low quality photo of the suspected murderer. Yet Allen was not arrested until October of this year. Authorities, they did interview Allen back in 2017, actually early in 2017 when this happened. And he allegedly told them that he was in the area where the girls were killed on the day of the murders. He admitted to being on Monon High Bridge and the Freedom Bridge between 1:30 and 3:30, as you heard when I read the released affidavit. He said that he was there between 1:30 and 3:30, and this does match the time when the girls had died. This information was essentially lost. That's what we would find out. An inside source in the investigation, as well as the Murder Sheet podcast, they shared this idea that a clerical error is responsible for the lost information. This could have been either, maybe misfiling of information, maybe it was labeled wrong, but this caused it to not appear on the correct location of the database during some of the key searches in this investigation. However, the FBI says the claims are misleading. When pressed about the possibility of a mistake, the FBI said, as stated in the past, this is a complex multi-agency investigation. And the implication that an alleged clerical error by an FBI employee caused years of delay in identifying this defendant is misleading. That is what was quoted from the FBI. Now, it was going back to the start of the investigation that revealed the early interview with Allen. And so Allen's arrest was announced on Monday, October 31st, 2022. Many details surrounding the arrest remained under wraps until November 29th, as I mentioned, when the judge ordered the release of the probable cause affidavit, PC8. Now, what we did find in this affidavit was that ammunition from a gun Allen owned allegedly connected him to the murders. And the documents revealed that a bullet was found near the remains of Abby and Libby. And after reportedly telling authorities that nobody else had used his Sig Sauer P226 a lab test found that the bullet to be one that had gone through Allen's gun. Now, the 50-year-old suspect allegedly failed to explain why a bullet from his gun was at the crime scene, saying he never allowed anyone to use or borrow his firearm. And so these reports, along with eyewitness reports, led police to believe that Allen is the one responsible for the murders. And so he is in custody, and a judge has set a hearing on a gag order and venue change request for January 13th, 2023. His bail hearing is set for February of 2023. Now, his attorneys, they issued a press release in this matter of the Delphi case. So you can see this press release that has been all over the internet, but the attorneys for the man that is charged with the murders of the two girls, they put out a press release, both Andrew Baldwin and Brad Rosie. He made it very clear that it's Rosie, not Rozzy. And so the two attorneys for Richard Allen, who, again, he's charged with murdering two girls near Delphi, Indiana, they suggested yesterday, Thursday, December 1st, that their client was arrested in part due to a political race for county sheriff in the jurisdiction where the crime happened. That was one of several assertions defense counsel Brad Rosie and Andrew Baldwin issued in this 3-page long press release that I just showed you. Their client, Richard Rick Matthew Allen, he's charged with these 2 counts of murders in the death of Abigail Williams and her friend Liberty German. Both teenagers, Abby 13, Libby 14. The girls vanished while walking the Monon High Bridge Trail near Delphi, Indiana on February 13th, 2017. The trail traverses an abandoned stretch of what once was the Monon Railroad and crosses an old trestle over a small river or creek. The girls were found dead the next day after being reported missing when they did not come back to the part of the agreed on location where they were going to be picked up. And so this press release that was issued by Baldwin and Rosie asserts that it was Allen who came forward to law enforcement in 2017 to reveal that he was walking on the trestle the day the girls vanished. The attorneys characterized Allen's decision to speak with the law enforcement on his own volition as one of several signs of his innocence. Basically, he came forward first. After Rick shared his information with law enforcement officials, he went back to his job at the local CVS and didn't hear from the police for more than 5 years. They then, posted one theory as to why Allen was arrested when he was a federal lawsuit filed against the local sheriff's department, which alleged problems with a major case. And it is shared that the next time Rick heard from the police was in October of 2022. This was approximately 2 weeks before a contested sheriff's election and within days of a federal lawsuit filed against the Carroll County Sheriff's Office by its former second in command, Michael Thomas. In the lawsuit, Thomas claims that he, Thomas, had made suggestions and offered assistance in the investigation of a high-profile child homicide investigation, but those suggestions and offers were rejected by the sheriff. Now, Thomas, he further claimed that the sheriff and others in the department feared the disagreements with Thomas would become publicized as a result of the political campaign for sheriff. Now, Thomas, he claims in the suit that he was ultimately demoted and replaced by Tony Liggett, who later that year won the 2022 election for sheriff. Furthermore, Thomas claims he was also removed from high-profile cases. Now, Rick, he was ultimately arrested, as I mentioned, at the end of October of 2022. This federal lawsuit in question, it remains ongoing in the U.S. District for the Northern District of Indiana. Let me pop that up here real quick. And so you can see here Thomas versus Carroll County, Indiana. And so this remains ongoing in the U.S. District Court for the Northern District of Indiana. And it alleges various constitutional and civil rights complaints. Now, it does not directly mention the Delphi murders case. The reference in the above quote is open to some interpretations, though presumably not many child murder cases happens in this local environment. And so that's why it alleges to the Delphi murders. This has literally been the biggest thing on anyone's minds in Delphi, Indiana. The authorities have alleged that an unspent bullet they claim was likely ejected from Richard Allen's handgun was found near the girls' bodies, but the science used to make such comparison is scientifically shaky. And so you had this redacted copy of the probable cause affidavit released this week admits that the comparison between the bullet and Allen's gun is subjective in nature. And so that's where it's like, does that kind of give a little doubt to the prosecutor's side of winning this case? Now, if this bullet was in the gun, it is said that it's an unspent bullet, meaning that it might have been in there, could have been clocked or whatever it is that you do, and then it might have fallen out. That's always a possibility because once it's in there, let me be very clear. I do not own any guns. I am not very familiar with guns. I'm only familiar with true crime. I've shot a 12 gauge one time in my life, maybe two times at this, whatever those little things that spit out and you got to try to, hit it in the air or whatever. I did that once. Kind of scary. I'm kind of scared of guns, to be honest with you. So I'm not playing a gun expert here, but I do know that if you do kind of like, whatever it is that they do with these things and one falls out, that would make it an unspent bullet, and that would definitely leave some imprints that tie it to the gun. And so they're going to have these comparisons, that's going to say, does this bullet go to that gun? Because my understanding is this is what led to you're being arrested now. But this affidavit also shares some about the clothing that actually matches the eyewitness. Now, Allen's attorneys, they're aware of the issues at play given the available case law on the subject. And they said yesterday that they anticipate a vigorous legal and factual challenge to any claims by the prosecution as to the reliability of its conclusion concerning this, what they refer to as single magic bullet. The press release, was sharing that in the 5+ years since Rick volunteered to provide information to the police, Rick did not get rid of his vehicle or his guns and did not throw out his clothing. He did not alter his appearance. He did not relocate himself to another community. He did what any innocent man would do and continued with his normal routine. Now, they say he did not alter his appearance, but if you look at what he looks like now as to some images 5+ years ago, he definitely does look a little different. He does not look like the same guy. So defense attorney, great try. Great try. Now here's the truth about the defense. They're doing their job right now. They're casting doubt early on. Before this thing even goes to trial, they're casting doubt. And truth is, it's working for some. It truly is working for some because people are like, you're going to need more to get a conviction here. And we don't know what the wife has said so far. We don't know. There's a good chance prosecution has more. And so the defense then directly refuted several claims made by the state court and in the redacted probable cause affidavit. And so the prosecutor mentioned at the last hearing about his belief that others may have been involved in the killing. Yet there was no mention in this PCA, again, probable cause affidavit, about a second suspect involved in the killing. Now, I agree with that because I read this affidavit to you on my channel in the last time I covered the Richard Allen, and there was nothing that really led me to believe that they were hinting to an accomplice. And so the defense is confused by such discrepancies, and to be honest with you, I'm a little confused as well how the prosecutors came to any help with Allen's case. And so there are some discrepancies in this investigation, and so we are going to wait to see more. But Rick Allen did own a Ford Focus in February of 2017. His Ford Focus is not in any way similar to the distinctive look of the PT Cruiser or smart car that was described by the witnesses. It seems that the CCSD is trying to bend facts to fit their narrative. This I just read is from the press release, not my own words. And so the probable cause affidavit, it suggests that a car described by witnesses as being parked near a building, a PT Cruiser in one description, or some type of smart car in another, is the same car that Allen drove because those descriptions are similar in nature to a 2016 Ford Focus. Now, I had a Ford Focus. I don't remember the year. It might have been a 2012. I don't know. It was a piece of crap. But I could see some similarities to a smart car, but I cannot see any similarities to a PT Cruiser. That does not match up to matching. So I can see how they're able to poke some holes in this. And according to the press release from the attorneys, the defense attorneys, the defense isn't willing to make that leap from one model to another. However, the defense also didn't acknowledge in its press release that Allen allegedly admitted to the authorities that he parked his car on the side of an old building when he was walking the trail the girls disappeared on the day they vanished. And so the witnesses say the police in question, the vehicle in question, whose precise description remains an apparent matter of debate, was parked in an odd manner at the old Child Protective Services building. And so here, another potential discrepancy occurs. The affidavit says Allen allegedly told the police he was parked near an old Farm Bureau building. The affidavit also attempts to share that it's a discrepancy. Investigators believe Mr. Allen was referring to the former Child Protective Services building, as there was not a Farm Bureau building in that area, nor had there ever been. So that's a little discrepancy on its own, because he's saying a Farm Bureau, but they're saying, like, wait a second, there was never a Farm Bureau building in the area. So, Baldwin asserted that the probable cause affidavit was flimsy in his previous statement. And I shared that before the affidavit was even released in a video before that, about the flimsiness of this affidavit in his previous statement to the press. But Prosecutors retorted that they believe the case is very solid. Now, here's the truth. They're supposed to say all those things, right? They're not saying anything. Kind of reminds me of the Barry Morphew case. I went through the whole affidavit, and even when I was sharing, I don't know how they're gonna have this guy have a good conviction, because it didn't make sense. Like, there wasn't enough data in that affidavit to show that he was guilty. And so the defense attorney, they shared in this press release that they felt compelled to tell their client's side of the story after 5+ years of press conferences by law enforcement authorities tasked with solving the murders. And of course, we're just still wanting more. But, at this time, the judge is considering a gag order. And truth is, judge on the Delphi murder case issues the gag order after attorneys released this statement. And so the defense attorneys also said that the public has provided them with some tips about the case, and they encouraged additional tipsters to come forward. Again, defense. He's really asking for defensive tips in this. And so that is some of what has been covered on this press release of these two girls. And so after the press release, the judge did issue the gag order after this press release. And so an Indiana judge imposed a gag order today, Friday, December 2nd, in the case of this Delphi murders case. And Richard Allen, who is charged, the County Judge Fran Gull, her order applies to attorneys, law enforcement officials, court personnel, the coroner, and the girls' family members. And it bars them from commenting on this case to the public and to the media directly or indirectly, by themselves or through an intermediary in any form, including any social media platforms. And anyone violating the order could be charged with contempt of court and face a fine or incarceration. Gull, the judge, wrote. This order was made, as I mentioned, after the two attorneys gave this press release. And so prosecutors, they urged the judge to issue one due to the intense media scrutiny. That is even why the Judge Gull had to step in, because the other judge recused themselves because of all the media attention that this story is getting. Allen's lawyers have also released a 3-page statement in defense of their client. And so that is the press release that I shared with you. Now, Gull, as I mentioned, she was brought in as a special judge to oversee the case after a Carroll County judge recused himself, and she'd review her order at a January 13th hearing, where she'll also consider a change of venue request that the defense has put in. The defense wants the trial held at least 150 miles away from Delphi, arguing it will be difficult to find impartial jurors in Carroll County. Truth is, that is the truth. I already see people, before this affidavit even came out, a lot of people are, he's arrested, he's guilty. Forget that he gets his time in court. Literally, I see people all over Twitter. I hope he has a rotten Thanksgiving. I hope he suffers in prison. I hope that he does. And at the end of the day, they're already convicting him. This was before the affidavit was even unsealed. My friends, everyone gets their due. And unfortunately, again, you got a judge that already recused themselves from this case because of the media attention. I honestly believe they need to have this away from Delphi. Because, hey, I want the right person to be put behind bars. If Richard Allen is that guy, I want him to pay the price and never see the day of light. I do feel they're going to be needing more than this bullet that was in the between the two girls. Do I right now think that it does kind of point to Richard Allen? Yeah, I will say, yeah, I do think that this is. But he deserves his day in court just like every fellow American in this country, right? Really worldwide. But everyone has their own way of dealing with things. And so I don't blame the defense for wanting this to be at least 150 miles away from Delphi, Indiana. Because look, he's already being convicted before even going to trial. We're familiar with this. I see people in the University of Idaho case. The boyfriend has been cleared. Does it mean that he can't come back into light later on? Yeah. The ex-boyfriend, let me get that correct. The ex-boyfriend has been cleared, but don't tell the internet sleuths that they're not having it. But time and time again, we do see this person is cleared only to come back and be like, oh my God, I never thought this would have been them. Right? And so the details around this whole case have been shrouded in secrecy. And so now, this past Tuesday, when the judge ordered the public release of the redacted affidavit, the probable cause affidavit, and what was enough for them to sign off on the arrest and the charging documents, they thought it was enough to get the arrest made, right? And so in this affidavit, the police stated that one of the Delphi Bridge murder victims shouted "gun" as she spotted their killer advancing towards them before he ordered them, guys, down the hill. And this unspent .40 caliber round that was found close to the girls' bodies, it was cycled through the suspect's gun. That's what the probable cause affidavit claims. And so, the breakthrough in this case finally came last month when cops were able to track down the pistol that likely fired the bullet. So, maybe I'm misunderstanding and forgive me. They're saying that it was fired because I thought it was an unspent casing. And this is what I mean. There's so much to this. You got to just continue to decipher whatever little bit that you can get out of this thing, right? And so at the end of the day, that's what we want to find out. Like, how do they have on for this? And, so we'll get back into that. If you have a theory on this gun part, let me know. Let me know your theory. So, because it was fired or it wasn't fired. It went through the gun. It didn't go through the gun. But they say that the bullet must have cycled through the gun. Does that mean it just cocked back and it fell out and didn't? Jeez. But we don't know how the girls, So he is now charged with the felony murder in their deaths, with prosecutors claiming that he had killed the two teens while trying to kidnap them. However, he's not been charged with kidnapping, right? So why are they throwing that out there if the affidavit doesn't even say anything about? So I don't know. That's what I mean. He's not being charged with kidnapping. And so, one person did say that he was on the bridge that day, recalling seeing the man believed to be Allen first while walking back along the same trail. They said he was kind of creepy and appeared muddy and bloody. at the same time. And that is a little chilling on its own. Let's be real, right? And so Glenjamin shares, there's a thing in the PCA that fascinates me. From the start of the document, they refer to RA as the male suspect several times. Yep, this is very true. And he asked, do you think it's a different person? They're very careful with their language in these documents. Great point, Glenjamin. That you are bringing up some great points on that, because they do refer to him as male subject multiple times. So that's a good point. Glenjamin shares, it definitely was not fired. When he chambered the bullet, he could have unchambered it in a way that wouldn't eject the unaired bullet. That's my thought process in it. That's exactly where I'm like, they would get an imprint of this. So I find that pretty interesting on its own in that particular case. And so I would love for you, if you're, comment below what you think about that. And so now that we have this gag order, there's a good chance we're not going to find out much information. We're not going to find much information after this press release from the judges. But as I said, Allen did admit to the cops that he was in the area that day when he was interviewed in 2017, but he denied the murders. Of course he's going to deny the murders. And so he said at the time that he decided to walk along the New Freedom Bridge, where he saw 3 females, saying one of them was taller and had brown or black hair. And so when he was interviewed again on October 13th, 2022, when he told investigators he had gone on the bridge to watch fish, and once again insisted he did not interact with the teens. So again, he's pleaded not guilty. And again, authorities say he may not have acted alone, while Allen's defense attorney, Andrew Baldwin, has insisted cops have the wrong guy. Again, speculation. Speculation, my friends. Do you think they have the wrong guys? Do you think they have the wrong guy? Speculation. I think they're on the right track. How could a bullet found at the murder scene be linked to a gun that Richard Allen says, this gun is mine and I would not loan it to anyone? I have no idea how this bullet could have gotten out there. That's where I believe prosecutors do have a strong case, because why would your bullet be over there? But I also believe they're going to need more than that. Glenjamin says that he believes they have one of the guys. Yes, I do believe that he is associated with this somehow. And so, again, the defense, they say this is a flimsy affidavit. I don't even know how you could have ever arrested I'm summarizing. I don't know how you could have ever arrested my guys, but co-counsel Brad Rosie and Baldwin, they say, although it could be argued that the amount of publicity that this particular case has received in the past 5+ years will make it difficult to find a jury that has not heard of this case, Richard Allen's defense team has gleaned statistical data that would strongly indicate that moving the case trial just 150 miles away would significantly reduce the likelihood of obtaining a tainted jury pool. That's what Rosie wrote in the motion that was filed this past Monday. And so he is scheduled to face a jury on March 20th with a bail hearing scheduled for February 13th. But in the meantime, he will stay in jail. That part we do know. That guy is not going anywhere. And so the judge You will have that hearing on January 13th. I feel like that is such a long way away. Don't you feel like that as well? You know, but I will say, when it comes to anyone being related to this case, Ron Logan was on the radar pretty hard. So that's where we do not know on this particular one. Like, okay, maybe Ron Logan was associated with it, but he died before they can go even further. Because again, maybe they didn't arrest him at the time, and I'm not. Again, his only, to me, his only downfall was that they happened to be found on his property, and so that is that's interesting there. But at the end of the day, his defense believes that he's innocent. What are they going to believe? They say that he is shocked that that he was caught in this. But here's the thing. The evidence. They need more evidence. I think they need more evidence. If they're going to, if this is the bad guy, they need more evidence. But the defense is doing what they're supposed to do. They're putting doubt into people's head pretty fast. And the key to me in this is you're gonna need more than just a bullet. What do you think? Do you think they need more than just the bullet? I do believe that there is enough to arrest him because this bullet is tied to him. But my question is, do they have more? Do they have more that they have not put in this affidavit yet? Right? Because a lot of people are also saying that this is definitely not enough to put him away. What do you think? If they had DNA, shouldn't they have some DNA? Shouldn't they have some DNA? They did find his clothing. If they found clothing that was identical to what he was wearing on that bridge, and if that's him, yeah, I think they definitely have the right guy. If they have the clothing, obviously it's not going to have the mud on it anymore, but someone in his home would have had to see the mud. Glenjamin asked whose fingerprints or DNA is on that bullet. Great question. That's a great question. And that's what I mean. As long as they have some type of DNA or they have some print, then I would say, yep, this is strong case. But that's going to be that they need more. They need more. But what it does look like, they might have dropped this ball a little earlier. They might have dropped this ball a little earlier when they did not follow up with him after early on in the stages, right? And so now all I care about is justice for these two little girls. But I also don't want the wrong person to be put into jail for this. And I do think that they're on the right track. As Glenjamin says, I agree with you, Glenn. They have at least one of the right people that's on the right track. Glenjamin shared that he thinks they have one of the guys. I am with you on that one, my friend. I do believe that they have one of the guys that are involved with this. And I do find this interesting. If you look at this picture here, and I should have put a little circle around it, way back there, maybe a quarter of a mile or less, it looks like someone is coming this way. Do you notice that? Is it one person though, or is it two people? Because we do know that Kevin Kline, what was that Kline guy? It's slipping my mind, but Kline, he did admit that he had conversations with one of these girls and that he was supposed to meet them at the bridge. So was he friends with Richard Allen? But if you look way back there, is that someone back there approaching this way? It's kind of chilling. Really chilling. Kind of freaks me out, to be honest with you. And here it is where he looks like one of these sketches in this case as they were getting closer to this, right? When they were looking for anyone. This is his home, which was not far from there, but he did not walk. He said it himself. He drove and he parked up back to it. And so I find this part chilling. Okay. There are pictures. This is what he looks like in this picture. And he has a sketch of someone that didn't quite match him at that time, I don't think. But he had this on the back in his home, or maybe actually this might have been at the bar, and he took a picture in front of it. I don't know if it was on purpose. Again, he's never going to give us the full information, is he? But if you look at this, the one on the right definitely looks like him. It looks like Mr. Kline. The one on the left, I do not think looks like him. But that's the picture that he took, took the picture in front of the one on the left. It didn't quite look like him, but the one on the right definitely looked like him from that day in this image right here. That really does look like this. And if they're matching the coat, and they're matching the pants, and they're matching the clothing, and they're matching the hat, Richard, you got some splaining to do. And so now we wait, unfortunately, till about January. My friends, if you have anything you can add to this, 844-459-5786. Please do your due diligence and help with any information that you have on this. And so I will end with, if it popped out as we assume, they didn't plan on anyone finding it. Had they shot the gun, they would have picked up the casing. Yep, that's a fair statement on its own as well. Great comment right there, Glenjamin. And so, my friends, this has been another episode of Deep True Crime. At the end of the day, I want to be a voice for these victims. And these two little girls need every voice they can find to keep their story. This has been a national sweeping story as it was getting closer and closer to going cold. And at the end of the day, I want to make sure that these are the things that can go wrong in this crazy world we live in. My friends, we cannot take this stuff lightly. If this is the type of stories you like to follow, make sure you hit that subscribe button. Click on that like if you got some value from this video, because that's going to tell YouTube, hey, there's value here. Show it to more people. And if you are one of the hundreds of new subscribers I had over the last 24 hours, thank you for joining the DTC tribe. I appreciate you. My goal is to keep being a voice for these victims, because it's stories like this that should never die out. And now we have the University of Idaho story. That story should never die out until there's justice for those 4 young adults who had so much life to live and give. My friends, I'm Manny Rodriguez. Thank you for joining me on another episode of Deep True Crime. Thank you for all the live people that were with me while I'm doing this story. I appreciate you very much, and I hope you have an amazing, amazing day. Until next time, my friends, have a great one. Have a good weekend. Peace.